Oh my god, it's here! The finale of reacting to my romance novel. And for those of you that hate this series, it should be exciting for you as well, because it's over. Anyway, I have been really excited about filming this and actually reacting to the end of this, because I don't know how it's going to end. And there's one more, at least, big scene of stuff happening, so let's just go ahead and find out what happens. Shall we? Yes. Standing on her toes, she kissed him. The kiss was the same as 2 months ago. The softest and most passionate kiss she had ever given and received. They stood there kissing, unaware of the time or the sun disappearing behind the horizon, until the cold began to set in. A sudden shiver ran between them. How about we step inside and I'll light a fire? Claire rubbed her hands together, letting David to pass in front of her. She locked the door behind, knowing she was locking out the past and welcoming in the most important thing in her life. Claire rubbed her hands together, letting David to pass in front of her. She locked the door behind, knowing she was locking out the past and welcoming in the most important thing in her life. David sat on the couch watching Claire as she went about to start a fire. He was amazed at how sexy she looked while she was doing it. She grabbed his jacket and boots to get timber from outside. She came back in carrying a large pile of logs in her arms and looking a little dirtier. She made men's clothes look good. She placed the logs beside the fireplace and began to stack them up on top of each other. As she crouched inside the pit, he admired her heavy breathing from the working cold, but also the position of the couch, which sat just behind her. She was bent over, almost level in front of him, and he didn't mind at all. The hard labor and warmth of the house made David's temperature rise, or was it the fact Claire had just removed his jacket after successfully making the fire, and her shirt almost lifted off when it was caught on one of the buttons? He suddenly wished his jacket had taken it off, but then that was one less thing he could do to her. He wanted to do everything that had to do with her. He wanted to be the one that made her scream, the one who made her cry out his name. Ooh. Now that the fire was lit, she could finally sit down next to David. Still not sure what their relationship was, she sat a few inches away from him. He answered with wrapping an arm around her shoulder and pulling her into his chest. It was really warm here, almost warmer than it normally would have been, but she enjoyed it all the same since she was still a little chilled. The temperature continued to drop throughout the night, but the degrees weren't the only thing falling. After snuggling on the couch until they were finally warm, hands began to wander. David's hands wandered to her stomach and slid under her shirt to find the source of the heat radiating from her chest. Claire's hands wandered around his body and slowly inched their way under his belt. As she reached for his manhood, he picked her up and set her down on the rug in front of the fire. Throwing a blanket from the back of the couch over them, he laid down on top of her. Something about his warm, heavy weight over her was really comfortable. She absolutely loved it when he was in control. She allowed him to take the reins as he slowly slid her shirt off. The cold air hit her skin sharply, but the soft, hot fumes from the fire helped to slowly heat her back up. His reply for her was hands moving all over her, creating a hot, sexy, frictional heat that lit her fire. He slid his cordial hands underneath her underwire, sending waves of delight through her ribs. Teasing her slightly, he lowered his teeth to the clasp on the front. She could feel his lips grazing her skin as his teeth hit the clasp. His hot breath flared over her mouth as his tongue swirled its way around the metal. With a jerk, her bra fell open and warm hands quickly caught her taut breasts. He massaged her perfect mounds, loving how it made her react. He felt her miniature fingers slither up his back, pushing his shirt up. Tucking it over his head, he saw her toss his shirt to the side as his dog tails clinked on her chest. She inclined her head slightly and pulled them off. Staring down upon her, he watched as she put them over her neck and let them lay in the valley between her mountains. So many mountains and mountains. The dog text on her had an immediate effect over him. She looked suddenly authoritative and sexy at the same time, leaving him under her command. He kissed her lips, pushing her into his chest, feeling the cold metal against his skin. Her knees bent, allowing him to slide between them as they deepened the kiss. She could feel him harden against her. Wanting to tease him a little, she wrapped her legs around him and pulled him roughly into her, making him pulled him roughly into her, making him grit his teeth. She wondered if it was the tags around her neck or something else, but she decided it might be fun to be in control. She buried her feet underneath him and suddenly flipped him over. She sat on top of him, looking down and smiling. His crooked smile made her only want to do more. She straightened up and slowly undid his belt. She took her time, letting him watch and yearn for her. She pulled the belt out of the loops, one at a time, until it was completely out. She ground herself against him slightly as she went for his top button. She undid it and slowly slid the zipper down. While she passed over his erection, she placed a few fingers in the opening and dragged them along it, continuing to unzip. He throbbed as he felt the pressure from her fingers passing over. He loved having her on top. It was a nice change. It was hard not to just take her as she erotically messed with his mind. When she had finished unzipping his trousers, he grabbed her behind and ground her a little against him. This made him want her even more. She grasped his waistband and pulled him off. Thought I went commando again, it would have taken longer, he thought stirringly. When she suddenly stood up, he thought something was wrong. He propped himself up on his elbows, watching her. However, nothing was wrong as she slowly undid her own pants and slowly unzipped her own zipper. She opened them a flap at a time, allowing him to glance tiny silken pink panties that cried to him to be taken off. Pushing her jeans off her hips, she put her hands inside of her jeans against herself, pushing them slowly down. Intrigued, he watched her push them down, her hands along the inside of her thighs, and push them one by one off her legs, caressing her entire leg the whole way down. Watching her caress herself made his pulse quicken. Pushing himself up on his hands, he expected to be the one to take off her underwear, but he was wrong. She now placed her hands over her breasts shyly and then pushed them together and down the middle of her body. She drove them below her waistband and continued down. He could feel his erection grow as he could see she was sweeping along her heat as her thumbs hooked on the top and dragged the panties slowly off. He fisted his hands as he observed the pink cotton fall to the floor around her ankles. Pulling them off with her feet, she kicked them at him. He caught them and held them up. They looked impossibly smaller off. Even at this distance, he could smell her scent wafting from the underwear, making him throb even more. He wanted to make her even wetter. Weird. She straddled his legs with her own and forcibly pushed him onto his back. Both of them being amused by this, she crouched over him and leaned in to kiss his lips. Centimeters away, she turned and kissed his cheek. She worked her way down to his neck, to his chest, finding the space between his ribs. She kissed her way down the middle, feeling his compliments underneath her. Halfway down, she moved to his sides, which caused him to grunt and breathe hard. Working her way across his waistline, she slowly kissed him lower and lower, feeling him ache to be inside her. Slowly kissing along his length, she heard David growl steadily louder. Frustrated, she couldn't take any more. He sat up and took control. He spread her thighs and picked her up, viciously kissing her. He slammed her against the nearby closet door. All he wanted to do was make her scream out his name. He slid a hand underneath her and inserted a finger inside. She cried out, but not loud enough, pushing deep within her, feeling her muscles tighten in her spongy pad. He roughly drove another finger inside. Her fingers grew white against his shoulders, gripping tightly for control. Pushing further, he inserted another, digging even deeper. Gasping, she cried out with such a feminine sound that it made him strain. Grabbing her shoulders, he thrust himself into her. She screamed even louder as he struggled to hold on, as she tightened even more. He pounded into her against the door even harder, though, making sure not to hurt her. She had never recalled him ever being this much in control or ever doing it so rough. She thoroughly enjoyed every minute. She felt like a slave to his power as he grabbed her wrists and pinned them against the door above her head. He kept hammering into her as he watched her every move. David watched as Claire steadily shined with sweat. Her insides told him that the time had come. He continued his rhythm as she stiffened and struggled to breathe. Her eyes closed tight as she screamed, escalating louder and louder. He bit his lip as he pushed to keep going as she screamed out, "Oh my God, David!" Not long after, he stopped with his head on her chest as he breathed slowly, releasing inside her. He lowered her to stand onto the floor. He kissed her forehead gently. "You want to move to the bedroom? At least to rest for a while, anyway?" Making a cute, pained face, Claire muttered, "I won't be able to walk right for a week, let alone walk to the bathroom." "Oh." Laughing, David grabbed the discarded blanket from the floor and wrapped it around her, lifting her into his arms. He carried her to the bedroom, laying her against the cushions. Pulling the covers over her, he climbed in himself and settled down beside her moist body. Proud to have been the culprit, he recalled the various aspects of the night. Within minutes, Claire turned to him. "You're all ready to go again? Damn, boy, give a girl a break!" Cradling her in his arm, he laid his head against hers, not being able to hide the fact that he was again yearning for her body once more. Morning sprang light and airy. The sunlight beaded through the curtains directly onto Claire's face. Screwing up her face away from it, she reached over for David to find an empty bed. Walking up, she looked around the room. Looking at the floor, she saw all of his stuff was gone. Lying back on the pillow, she realized that he had left. This was really strange for David to do, and it hurt considering how yesterday went. Claire put on her fluffy robe and headed to the kitchen, hoping to find David somewhere. Peering out the front window, she saw his car was gone. She sighed and let only one tear fall down her cheek. She should have known he'd change his mind so quickly. Lifting her chin and taking a deep breath, she went to make some coffee. She pulled out 2 cups, frowning. She returned the spare, slowly wondering why she still habitually did this. The smell of coffee woke her up some more. She picked up her newspaper, flipping idly through the pages. No matter what she said, she only read the newspaper for the front page and the funny pages. The time passed by slowly, but they eventually added. It had been weeks since they had talked. She called every day, then every other day. Once a week, soon turned into nothing at all. He never answered his phone. He never called. She never saw him. He never came by. He was never home, and she always just missed him. She missed him terribly, but every day he was gone, she missed him less. She could get a hold on him better when he was away. Suddenly, Claire heard a ring. Her cell phone vibrated on the table, jingling his ringtone. She stared at the phone before picking it up cautiously. It had been 3 months to the day almost. She opened it and breathed. "Hello?" "Hey, Claire, how you doing?" She listened in silence for a few moments. Why and how could he act as if nothing had happened like that? It made her feel sick. Did he know how much pain she had been through these long months because he was here but not here? She gave a curt fine, which if he had any brain at all, he could pick up that it was the complete opposite. "Oh, that's so good to hear. Things have been good here. I was just calling to check up on you since I haven't heard from you in a while." Claire rolled her eyes, feeling the anger rise up in her throat. "And I thought I'd call. There is some other good news. I met a girl." Her heart stopped. This was why he was calling. To tell her that he had found someone else. Claire's throat dried and her heart began to beat painfully against her ribs. Her stomach flipping, making her nauseous, and her eyes began to cry. This was the worst feeling. "That is so great to hear," she lied through her teeth. She wondered how she was able to say this at all. "When did you meet? Have you been dating long?" "Oh, actually, we were old friends who got reacquainted." "Do I know her? What's her name?" Pause. "Well, you may have known her, but oh, just tell me." Meredith." Sadness turned into revulsion. Meredith? It couldn't be the girl they used to know that went around with, like, every guy and sometimes girl if she could. Claire couldn't stay in the same room as Meredith for more than a few minutes before getting angry, and she was not to mention crazy. Then again, Meredith could be a common name. Meredith? She the one that dated John? Yeah, I guess you do remember her. The confirmation sickened her even worse. How long have you been dating? About 3 months, maybe? 3 months? He's been avoiding her for 3 months. I think the day after Boxing Day, she got mad she missed all the sales because of work. He started dating her the day after he left? What was he thinking? How could he do this and just date a horrible girl? She vaguely heard him describe her and several dates they spent together while reminiscing and saying how much he liked her. The words sliced into her soul one after another, as if taunting her that she was indeed not good enough for him. Claire felt the tears aching to spill out. She had to cut off soon. Okay, I got the idea. You have a new girlfriend. I need to stay away and not call anymore. I got it. No, that isn't what I meant. You can still call whenever you need me, or if you want to. I still want to be friends. But David, I can't. That wouldn't be fair to Meredith. She wouldn't want me to call. Bye, David. Wait, Claire! Curiosity made her halt. What? I'm sorry, Claire. Be safe. Bye. The phone hung up and Claire stared at it for a long time. Who knew this piece of technology could bring her whole world crashing down? A part of her heart ended when the conversation did. He found someone else, and he loved her. She couldn't beat love. It was time to move on because, as he told her, he had. And that's the fucking end of it? Ooh, and you know what's funny is that I hate those movies that are super realistic and like, if there is no happy ending, and I just fucking did that. I did that. So I have a secret. So if you've stuck with me this entire time and into the finale, I will share it with you. So this story, despite me hating the ending, it's actually based on a true story. This is why I'm single. A lot of the plot is actually based on something that actually happened to me. Yep. So, take that as you will. This was basically a 7-part, this is why I'm single. The full detailed version. I really did love sharing this with you, and thank you for watching. I hope you liked the video. Otherwise, I will see you next week. Bye!